our senator from the state of Florida, Senator Marco Rubio. Good morning, Senator. Thanks for joining us.
Jimmy, good morning.
Well, what do you think, Senator? Were you in support of us going in and supporting the no-fly zone over Libya?
I was, and let me tell you, this is a complicated one. I think most people listening are wondering, why do we even care? Why are we involved in this country that's so far away? So for the few minutes, I'll try to explain and give the argument as to, I think there's two separate issues. Number one is, should we be involved? And number two, whether it was done the right way. And on the first one, let me say that no region of the world is more strategic to the United States and more problematic at the same time than the Middle East. And across the Middle East, what you see is this wave of people standing up and saying, we're tired of living underneath these repressive regimes. We're tired of living in countries where there's no hope for the future. And they're starting to stand up. And you've seen that in Egypt and Yemen, Tunisia. You've seen protests in Syria and Iran and other places as well, Bahrain. So this is a promising moment where I think there's an opportunity for a real transformation in the Middle East that could lead to improving America's standing in that region of the world and providing some stability. Muammar Gaddafi's watching the same thing, and now he's being threatened by that. And what he's decided is he's not going to allow to happen to him what's happened to Mubarak and other people. And very simply, what he decided is he will do everything he needs to do to stay in power, including slaughtering civilians and innocents, using his own army against his own people, etc. Here's the problem. If he was able to pull that off without any international repercussions, he will have created the blueprint for every other country on how to crush these rebellions. In essence, number one, it will discourage people in places like Iran and Syria, where we do want those governments gone, to stand up. And number two, if they do stand up, it'll create a blueprint for how their leaders should deal with it. Basically, will slaughter people and crush their heads, and no one will do anything about it. Right. So I think the president was right when he concluded weeks ago that Gaddafi must go. I think the problem is he then did nothing about it. And the result is problematic. Now we are engaged in a conflict that is going to cost a lot more money and take a lot more time, and in which the outcome is a lot less certain. 3 weeks ago, the rebels had all the momentum. Just the slightest amount of involvement by the United States would have probably tipped the scales. And when I say the United States, what I'm advocating is that 3 weeks ago, the president should have gone to the international community. The Arab League was asking for that. He should have gone to the Arab League, NATO, the international community, the Security Council. They should have basically done what they did last Thursday. They should have done it 3.5 weeks ago. This thing would have been a lot different. Yeah. Instead, they took too long, and the result is now it's a little bit more complicated.
Do you have a problem, Senator, with us, as the president said, we will not be, leading the charge here for very long. It'll be days, not weeks. Do you have a problem with the United States, ceding our what has been more moral and military authority to the British or the French, if that indeed does happen?
I think that's the reverse problem of what we've complained about in the past on efforts like what we're doing in Afghanistan, where we are trying to go after the Taliban, and we struggle to get some of our allies to fully participate. I think that's actually a good development that France and others are willing to take the lead on something like this. But ultimately, only the United States can do what happened. France and Great Britain were calling for a no-fly zone for weeks, and nothing happened. Within hours of the president changing his mind on it, things began to move. I mean, the reality is that the United States has leverage and power to influence the international community, whether we want to embrace that or not under this administration. And the minute the United States decided, maybe a no-fly zone is something we should do, things moved very quickly. My argument is, if you decided that's what you wanted, and I think you can make a valid argument for that, he should have done it weeks ago. I think the fact that he took too long is going to make this thing a little bit more complicated than it should be, the outcome a little bit more uncertain. It's a little bit more difficult to manage, unfortunately.
Yeah. Final question for you, then I want to talk to you about what you've got coming up on Friday, which I think is a great thing for Florida in general. Gaddafi. The president said Gaddafi's got to go, yet we are not targeting Gaddafi. I mean, this is the man we know behind the strike of Pan Am 103, and I think in my mind, as an American, that's good enough. And as President Reagan said, anybody who comes after our people will not be safe in this world. And I think that's the attitude we have to have. Do you agree?
Yeah, the thing we need to remind ourselves of is that the Libyan people decided Gaddafi must go. I mean, the rebels had control of majority parts of that country at one point. The rebels had all the momentum, and Gaddafi was on the verge of not just losing control, but falling into the hands, ultimately, of his own people and being brought to justice. And then because he was able to use aircraft, he began to bombard and attack innocent civilians and terrorize the population. He laid siege to cities. He started importing all kinds of mercenaries and all of that, and he was able to turn the tide. Right. And by the time the United States and the president came around, he was on the outskirts of Benghazi, and a lot had changed since then. So, you know what? the Libyan people were going to get rid of Muammar Gaddafi. All they needed was to, have someone help them not get strafed by aircraft, and that's why I wish something had been done about this. That basically had done what they did now 3 weeks ago.
Yeah. All right, Senator. I know you've got an open house at your office in Miami this coming Friday. Tell us about it and who's invited and where is it?
Well, our open house Friday is in Miami. It's in Doral. It's on 8400 Northwest 36th Street is our office. It's right there on the first floor. That office serves Miami-Dade and Monroe counties. Soon we'll be opening up an office in North Broward that will serve Palm Beach and Broward. And basically it's a constituent service center. It's the place that we help our citizens and our residents interact with the federal government on anything from veterans benefits to Social Security, Medicare. Any issues you have with the federal government, we are there to help, and we want people to come. So I asked them to either go on our website, go to ussenate.gov, and you can find direct links to our office website, or to come out to our office at 10 a.m. for the open house.
All right, and we will link it up to the Cefalo blog at wiod.com as well. Senator, thanks so much. We appreciate your input, and we look forward to seeing you on Friday. A lot of folks, I'm sure, come out and say hello.
Thank you.
All right, thanks, Senator. Bye-bye.